This is Dads Watching Sports. It's the show by dads who watch sports, for dads who watch sports, or just dads in general. Here are the dads with a plan for every #dad life and sports fan, Kyle Castles and Michael Draper.
And we are the dads who watch sports, and we are back on your airwaves, sound waves, whatever you want to call it, video waves, Facebook, Twitter, everything and anything. We are back after a couple of weeks of hiatus. Kyle, it is the year 2022, and the dads are back in town. He's Kyle Castles. I'm Michael Draper, and thank you so much for checking us out, whether you're on our live stream or if you're downloading the podcast. Kyle, we have not spoken to each other on this format since December 19th. And here we are, January 9th. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I've missed seeing your beautiful face. The shine of the bald head, it's nice.
Got a good shine this morning. Well, speaking of face, Kyle, we talked about this a little bit before the show. That is quite the manscape you've got going on your face there. That's quite the beard you got going.
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of playing with stuff right now and growing out the hair.
This is a family show, Kyle.
Easy.
Family show.
I'm growing out my hair, growing out the beard, just kind of seeing what it does, what it looks like, if it's worth continuing. But everybody seems to kind of like the beard. The hair is kind of. My mom showed up for Christmas and said, "You look disheveled."
Oh, Donna! Shots fired by Donna, looking disheveled. Come on now, I don't agree with that at all. I think it looks great. I think you should, without a doubt, just let them both go. So Lauren, if you're watching or listening, just don't worry about it. Just let it go. Let the hair go. Let the beard go, because that is a hunk of man right there.
It is something. Hopefully, it will be less hunk of man as we go through the year.
There you go.
That's what do you call that in the business?
That's a tease.
That's a tease.
Yes. Kyle's good for a good tease, whether it be here or other places.
Easy.
Well, again, it's been several weeks here since we've done the podcast, and we've been on the airwaves and on the sound waves and on the radio waves and on the whatever waves you want to look at. We went through Christmas, we went through New Year's, we both had birthdays in our household. A lot has been going on. Yeah. You and I spent Christmas Eve church service together, and then had one fine Thai meal.
It was fantastic. I did not know I was a curry fan until your sister-in-law ordered whatever it was that she ordered, and I tasted it, and it was the Penang, and it was fantastic. It
is fantastic. But yeah, so a lot's been going on. But before we get into some topics for the show, just how were your holidays? Because you and I haven't talked much since we've been out for the holidays. How were the holidays for the Castles family? And again, I know you guys had a birthday, and then Christmas, and then New Year's.
Yep.
So how did everything go?
Everything was good. It was very laid back, very calm. I think I said this. My family came up here this year, which was nice. It was nice and relaxed, and not a whole lot to complain about, really. Just a very relaxing. Not having to travel was amazing.
Yep.
Just it takes away a lot of stress. And so, like I said, not traveling, staying here. Everybody kind of coming to us. It was a good year.
Yeah, it was for us as well. We did just a little bit of traveling, but not going too far. And really some highlights for us over the holiday season. So on, I guess it was the day after Christmas, so the 26th, took the kids and the family, and we went to see Sing 2 in theaters. Kyle, has your family seen Sing 2?
We have not seen Sing 2. Is it a must?
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
It is very
I like
good.
Sing. I did like Sing.
See, we're a big Sing family. That's when we got our minivan, which we've talked a lot about on this show.
Yeah.
That was the first DVD that we bought for the minivan was Sing, because our kids like music. We thought this has got to be a good one, and we have probably watched that 327 times. over the past couple of years. And so we love a good Sing. So when we saw Sing 2 was coming out, it was a must.
Yep.
And I think my father-in-law was more excited about it than anybody, but it was his idea. He was like, hey, let's go see Sing 2. But the kids loved it. It was Hayden's first trip to the movie theater, which
nice.
I mean, he's a TV movie, like he would sit in front of any kind of screen if we let him all day. So he was locked in. He absolutely loved it. But yes, Sing 2 what Roger Ebert you said was 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up
from Ebert and whatever the other guy's name was.
Roper? Was it Roper or
Siskel and Ebert? Was that it?
Siskel and Ebert?
There you go. 2 thumbs up for Sing 2. And just be prepared if you guys do go see it. You will have U2 songs in your head all day.
U2,
not a bad thing.
It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. And it's a beautiful movie. And there's some beautiful music in it. So Sing 2 was a big hit for the Draper household.
Well, hang on. Before you move on, I got to ask, does Hayden eat popcorn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Did you introduce him to movie theater popcorn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like the lady, I was holding him and the lady said, "Do you want butter?" And he goes, "Yes." he was all about butter. All about it. So he sat, it was just wide eyed and just nonstop here.
Yep.
Just looking.
It's beautiful.
And it was absolutely wonderful. And then speaking of Hayden, our son had his 3rd birthday is 2 days after New Year's Day. So it's January 3rd. So we surprised him for his birthday and took he and our daughter to, it's called Sound Waves. It's an indoor water park, Kyle, here in Nashville at the Opryland Hotel. And again, money well spent. Was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Kids had a blast. You think indoor water park, it can't be that big. I think, again, you know how things are at Opryland. Everything is huge out there. They had 2 lazy rivers. They had a huge pool in the middle that had basketball goals on it and all kinds of stuff. They had a splash pad area for little kids. They had, do you remember, Kyle, and you may not remember this because I don't know how frequently, did you ever go to Opryland, the amusement park?
A few times, maybe. Okay,
so back in the day at Opryland, there was a ride called the Grizzly River Rampage.
Yes, I do remember that. And it's the log ride, right?
No, this is it's like the big sphere thing that everybody sits in, like 8 people sit in it, and you go down like this little river.
Okay, yeah.
Well, so they have basically that ride indoors now at Soundwave, so you can sit in this big thing. So they got that. They had a couple of things where you can get in tubes, and so the kids just absolutely loved it. It was awesome. So if you live in the greater Nashville area, Opryland and Sound Waves, again, Siskel and Ebert give it 2 thumbs up. The Drapers do for sure. It was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds great. Question: how crowded was it?
Not as crowded as you would think. So the caveat, this is good from a crowded standpoint, not so good maybe for your wallet standpoint, but you have to stay at the hotel in order to have access.
Gotcha.
And so while that still opens it up to quite a few people, it was not nearly as crowded as it normally would be if you went to just like a normal water park. But it was awesome. Again, indoor, so you can go there any time of the year. And our kids loved it. There's restaurants actually in the water park area. Of course, you're going to spend $100, but it was well worth every penny. Kids had a blast. Were just completely exhausted afterwards. It was awesome.
So then they went to sleep pretty quick.
Oh, without a doubt, man. No doubts about it. Well, one thing that's still been kind of going around, and we saw, we honestly thought a little bit about this being indoor at a water park is, Kyle, we're coming up on 2 years now before, since really the word COVID or coronavirus entered our vocabulary. And here we are, again, January 9th of 2022, almost 2 years later, and we're still dealing with this crap. And it's affecting, you think of what was like March 15th in the sports world, the day that kind of the sports world shut down. Not nearly as bad as it is now, but there are games that are getting canceled or postponed. Yeah. You guys know that we ended up basically canceling our son's birthday party this past weekend and just had a few family members over because we didn't want everybody to be indoors and have a ton of people at our house. And so did you think, looking back in March of 2020, that 2 years later, we would still be going through this?
No, I can't say that I did.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have, but we could be here 2 years from now still talking about it.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing that this thing is not going to go away. It's just going to be here. And I think people are starting to catch on to that. The sports world shut down March 15. I think that's the right date, 2020. But now we're having millions of, and I mean, I'm not kidding, more than 1 million cases a day in America. And we're just like, yeah, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're still going to, like, why change what we're doing? And I think people are starting to figure out, like, it's not going to go away. So you just got to take precautions. And if you get sick, you get sick. I think this Omicron variant, because it's not near as serious. I hate to use that word, but I can't think of a better word. When the normal symptoms are COVID-like or not COVID, cold-like symptoms, whatever, I can deal with a cold. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing is they're just dealing with a cold. They go get it tested because that's what you do now is you go get tested for COVID whenever you have something.
Right. Yeah.
And so anybody that feels like I have a cold, which it's cold season, right? Like they go get tested, they test positive, and but we know the cold is a coronavirus as well. So I don't know how the tests work, if they pick up any coronavirus or whatever. It is what it is. Like,
yeah, it's almost like it's become like the flu. It's like,
yeah.
Here we are. I don't know I don't know if the Spanish flu was the first time the flu came around. I'm not a doctor that knows a whole lot of details about all that stuff and don't know my history that well enough. But, people have kind of come accustomed to every year. Okay, it's flu season and here we go. And let's get your shots and let's just make sure that we're being precautious about that thing. And so, yeah, it seems like we're trending that way to where that's just kind of where we're heading, where this is just going to be something that's with us. And, I think I saw somebody tweet something out. We won't get too much in this. Not too long ago, when I think it was right at the beginning of the bowl season, when some of the bowls were starting to get canceled and some college basketball games were getting canceled. And they were like, this feels like March of 2020. And I was like, what? Like, to me, not even close, because on March 2020, we had no idea what this thing was. There was no vaccine for it. Like, nobody knew what this thing was. Yeah. And now we're 2 years in, and to your point, people are like, we're just going to kind of keep living our lives and do the best that we can, and that's going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's where we need to be. We're not seeing the hospitalizations and the deaths. I'm just going to pull it up real quick. Drudge Report has had and they're not doing it now. Of course they're not. But Drudge Report was keeping a tally of how many new cases and how many deaths. And what you were seeing is a lot more new cases now than a year ago today, but deaths were like cut in half. Yeah. So what you're seeing is a contagious virus, which we know that's the fact, but you're seeing also a virus that's not as deadly, that's not as severe. And if we continue going down that path and it just becomes another cold virus that you can catch, is it worth shutting things down?
Right.
And right now, I don't think anybody cares to shut it down.
No, I don't know if they do either. But well, we'll move on past that topic. But it's just hard to believe here we are 2 years later, and games are still getting canceled, and these things are still happening, and here we are. And let's hope that when we come back in 2023 for our first episode, maybe we won't be talking about, at least maybe in that severity. So speaking of New Year's, Kyle, as I'm sure everyone who listens to our show and keeps up with us does, at the beginning of New Year, a lot of people make New Year's resolutions or goals or whatever you want to call them, but they just set out and say, hey, for this year, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, or I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this, or I'm not going to do those things. So I wanted to dip in really quickly and see have you set any goals for 2022? And well, I guess first, did you set any for 2021, and did you achieve those? And then did you set any for 2022?
Did I set goals for 2021? Yes. Did I achieve them? No. Are they the same goals for 2022? Maybe.
Probably. Yeah. That's how it usually goes for everybody, right?
Exactly. But in saying that, I had my yearly checkup the week between Christmas and New Year's. And
the dreaded yearly checkup. I had mine last week. You want to compare? You want to compare stats?
Well, they said, they were like, everything looks good. Cholesterol looks good, blood pressure, everything's good except for that A1C. And the A1C, it puts me in the pre-diabetic range, which means sugars and carbs are the enemy.
Yes.
Which is sad because I sure like me some carbs.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
I mean, I enjoy potatoes and bread, and so
just a good hunk of bread, man. Just a good hunk of bread. Nothing. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You get it. So the goal is to, and I don't know that I've been great at it yet, but the goal is to eat fewer carbs, fewer sugars, try to get this A1C under control.
There we go.
So that's the big one.
Yep. Well, I think each year when I try to think of like yearly goals and things of like coming up in the next year, I'm kind of the same way. I feel like I go back and look back and I'm like, oh man, like that didn't go that well, or I didn't end up doing that. We do this thing, and I may have even shared this on the show last year. Our family does like some goals throughout the year, and we keep track of those or whatever. And basically this year, a lot of them were kind of fitness related for Suzanne and I, just setting specific benchmarks for us from a fitness standpoint. But then for everybody, we said we just want to either learn or try something new, whether that's a new activity for the kids or something new for us, just trying something new or going somewhere new, doing something that we haven't done before. So that is a big thing on our to-do list or our goal list for this year, is just to do new things and get outside of our comfort zone a little bit and try new things that we haven't yet done before. Try to stretch ourselves, challenge ourselves a little bit throughout the year, which is what the Drapers are going to try to do.
So do y'all do, and I will tell you can't ask me this question because we haven't sat down and had our conversation. I think that might be our conversation for tonight. But do y'all do a word or a phrase of the year, a word of the year, something like that?
So we don't do a word of the year or phrase of the year, but we did adopt a family motto. So we actually did this, was it last year? And to your point about not following through on resolutions and goals, I kind of created these little cards that have like a picture and our little family motto on it. And it just basically hung in everybody's room. We didn't do anything about it. So we said this year we're going to take our family motto, which is to trust God, to love family, and to serve others. And we're going to put that into practice in things that we do. So all of our goals will kind of hopefully funnel back to our family motto. And we're going to try to remember to talk about that maybe more than just one time, because that usually is how it goes. We'll say, this sounds like a great idea, we're going to do this, and then we get halfway through the year and like, man, remember that motto thing we came up with? What happened? I don't even remember what it was.
We hadn't said anything about it in 6 months, so
that's right,
let's remember that for the next 6 months.
Some motto, absolutely. So and in truth be told, we stole that idea from our pastor. I think his family has one of those as well. But
I will also say I don't think that's any different than like a vision or a mission statement for any type of organization, right? Like,
right.
You come up with them and you're like, this is who we are, this is what we do, and 3 months later, it's like, what was that again?
Yeah, that's right. What was that strategic plan that we put into place?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's so much work goes into those strategic plans. Hey, we're going to take a 3-day retreat, and we're going to come up with our next 3 to 5 year strategic plan.
Yes,
and then 6 months later, you're like, I mean, My organization doesn't do those things, but I know of some that do.
And not that you've worked for any of those.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. Of course not. Well, a couple more things that we'll get to before we get into some sports talk. So if you're checking out the show on our live stream, or if you download the podcast, you're like, man, when are these dads want to talk about sports? We're going to do it in just a few minutes, but we got a lot of catching up to do. We like I said, it's been 3 weeks. We haven't talked to each other. We got a lot to catch up on, a lot going on. Kyle, one thing that also went on in our neck of the woods during the holiday season was we had not one, but 2 days of snow,
yes,
or substantial individual days of snow. So I mentioned we were at the water park for Hayden's birthday. It was on last Sunday, January the 2nd. That night we got some good snow. And then this past Thursday, we got some good snow as well, upwards of maybe 6 or 7 inches in our neck of the woods. So snow days for the Castles family, how the snow days go for you guys?
So I think I got much more beach kids than snow kids. Wrigley likes the idea of the snow, but if he can't sled, he's kind of over it within a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Jack was hard to get out of the snow, and I started to worry about him because I could see that nose and his ears get real red. His hands were blood red when we got him inside. I was like, hey, he's getting a little too cold. Hannah didn't want to deal with the snow at all. She had no desire to be out there. It was cold. It was wet. It wasn't what she wanted. So we didn't do a ton of snow play. I mean, we were out there both days for a little bit of time, but it wasn't hours on hours like maybe you had. I don't know how long you were out there, but we were out there probably 30 minutes or so at a time, and they played and they had a good time. Wrigley ran inside both times and said he had to get warm. So, I mean, it was what it was. We built a really small snowman that looked pretty awful. Our snow did not pack well at all. And even the second day, we had about 4 or 5 inches come down, maybe 6. It didn't pack well. I thought, okay, we'll get the snowman done the second day because it's not supposed to get above freezing today, and it's supposed to be single digits that night. We'll get a good hard freeze, and then we'll be able to sled. We would have really packed the snow in. Woke up the next day, everything just sinks into the snow. It doesn't pack. It just a powdery snow that was kind of like, kind of a useless snow. It got me out of work, got the kids out of school. I guess that's a plus or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, depending on what you do for a living, that's a plus or not. So that's kind of what I went into our kids' school that Thursday after, or maybe it's Thursday afternoon, it was Wednesday afternoon. It was just like, I mean, when are y'all calling it? Like, come on, Williamson County Schools has already done it. Like, when are y'all going to call this thing? And they're like, oh, well, we're going to wait and see. And I was like, no, come on, let's just get this over there.
Yeah, let's just be honest.
We all see the forecast, and literally like a couple hours later they sent it out. And we got quite a bit of snow down here, and I guess it was the first round, got a good snowman built. And then the second round got some sledding done. But it was definitely, I'm sure anybody listening to this that does not live in the Southeast is just probably laughing or rolling their eyes at us. They're like, 4 to 5 inches. Come on. Like, that's not a big deal. For us, it's a big deal. And if you've never been down to Tennessee when it snows or there's ice or anything like that, just beware that people, it's the snow apocalypse and people don't know how to drive and people freak out and think you have to go to the store and buy up every last good that's there because we're all going to be in our house for the next week and a half. And like coming in our neighborhood, there's a little bit of a hill coming down our entrance. And I still don't know how this guy did this, but I guess the guy was going a little bit too fast in his Dodge Ram pickup truck and hit a thing of ice, skidded all the way across the side, ran into the gate and did some nice damage to the fence, which was really exciting. And I'm just like, man, come on. Like, all you got to do is just go slow. Like there was not that much ice, but it is like you said, it kind of is what it is. One thing that the snow day did allow us to do, Kyle, was in a couple of the houses around us, there's some families about like us, got some younger kids, and we've been able to kind of connect every once in a while. It seems like either, we're just not outside at the same time, or for whatever reason, just not ever really able to connect with a couple of them. And so I noticed on Friday, when we had that really good ice after the ground had frozen and everything, that the people right across the street they have a pretty good slope to their driveway, and their kids were in laundry baskets going down it, and our kids got out and they're like, oh, that looks like fun. So I was like, all right, here's our in. Here's our in to finally meet the neighbors. I mean, these people, I think they've lived across the street from us, basically diagonal, for the whole time that we've lived here, for like almost 3 years, and we've still yet to really kind of connect with them. So I was like, all right, we're going in. And so we get over there and I'm like, hey, the kids saw you guys sledding. You mind if we sled? And then it's like the typical awkward, like, grown-ups meeting grown-ups, trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we become friends with these people conversations, and like trying to have those awkward conversations. So, how old are your kids and what are their names and what do they do? It was just it's just awkward all the way around.
Yeah, who wants to be awkward when you already have friends?
It's true.
That's where I'm at. Like, do I need more friends? I got Mike. I feel like I'm good.
Yeah, but I don't live right across the street. So when you're out of milk and there's an ice storm, and your buddy across the street's got milk, come on.
Well, I've gotten to know the people directly across from us, and they seem like nice folk.
Well, we had the awkward conversations for about 15, 20 minutes. The kids did some sledding. It was nice and fun. And now when we see each other, we're like, hey, neighbor, how are you? But that was about it. So
yeah,
not a whole lot going on there.
That's all you need to borrow a cup of sugar, right?
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, I don't know if you saw this or not. We had some breaking news today. Some really unfortunate news. America's dad from the 90s, Bob Saget, passed away today. He's only 65 years old, which is really young. But obviously known for the dad on Full House. I think that's without a doubt where most people.
America's Funniest Home Videos too.
America's Funniest Home Videos. That was kind of post, or I guess he was doing it maybe at the same time. As Full House. Obviously, for those of you that know him outside of that, was pretty big in the stand-up world. It was really always kind of funny to see that you had this like wholesome character on Full House, and then you had Bob Saget, who does like just raunchy, like X-rated stand-up, which was a little hilarious. That you're like, man, that's not the Danny, whatever his name is,
Danny Tanner. Come on,
Danny Tanner, that we've learned to love over the past decade or so on Full House. So Bob Saget, man, that was sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad to see. We didn't talk about Betty White, who also passed a week and a half ago now, and it's sad to see those that are beloved, like Betty White, like Bob Saget, that you never hear a bad word about. And yeah, they could be the worst people in the world, but we don't know it. So yeah, we can look up and say, like, this is kind of a sad deal.
Yeah, it is. And I hadn't really seen much from old Bob the last couple of years, other than I knew that he's the voice on How I Met Your Mother for the dad when sitting down with the kids. And you and I talked about this right before the holidays. So Suzanne and I had started watching How I Met Your Mother. For those of you out there that have not watched it yet, it's 9 seasons long, and they're all like, every season is like 22 to 24 episodes. So it's a long show. We finally finished a couple of nights ago. And you and I talked about like the best characters on the show or whatnot, but I thought it was very fitting that we finally finished How I Met Your Mother. And then we lost Bob Saget today, but good show, great show, decent show. What's your How I Met Your Mother grade?
There are episodes that are fantastic. I know this is a family show, but the first one that comes to mind is Robin as Robin Sparkles, and the girl, I forget the girl's name from some girl group. I can picture her, Nicole something or another. And they talk about their beaver, because beaver, it's like the beaver is the Canadian
national animal
or something. Yeah. But just the things that they were saying with, was it Robin Thicke? Not Robin Thicke. What's his name?
It's Alan Thicke.
Alan
his dad.
Thicke.
Yeah.
There you go. Alan Thicke. Just that banter back and forth, talk about the beaver, and I will let our listeners go from there.
Yep.
that was always hilarious to me.
Yep, it's a good show. I was a big Marshall fan on that show. It's a good one. But yeah, Bob Saget, man, that's
Yeah.
that is tough news to hear. And I'm sure the streaming of Full House will go through the roof over the next couple of days, and as it should.
As it should. Well, and let's be honest, Candace Cameron's also in that show, and so it's worth watching.
There you go. That she is. Well, Kyle, let's shift gears to some sports just for a little bit here before we kind of finish things up.
All right.
We'll start in the NFL. So at least half of the playoff picture is set. The NFC is set in the NFL for the playoffs. You've got the Packers, obviously, with one of the best records in football. They got the bye. And then the matchups in the first round are the Eagles at the Bucks, the 49ers at the Cowboys, and the Cardinals at the Rams. So just in looking at the NFC picture, the NFC side of it, what are some initial thoughts? Not necessarily who's going to walk away with it, but what are just some initial thoughts you got there?
So initially, I'm a little upset because the Niners need to lose to the Rams today for my Saints to get in. We did our part. We beat the Falcons, but we needed a Niners loss. And like the Niners normally do, they hurt my Saints. But whatever, I'm still repping because that's what I do. But I think you got a pretty good set of wild card weekend games. You know, the Eagles can run the ball well. I know the Buccaneers have a pretty stout defense, but I think that could be a fun little matchup. I don't expect to see a upset there, but I think the Eagles can keep it close. I don't think anybody really wants to play the 49ers right now. They're kind of on a roll. Deebo Samuel is kind of all world right now, and the Cowboys offense, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up. And then that Rams-Cardinals game could be a whole lot of fun. I mean, you got division rivals there. And one thing I didn't say about that Niners-Cowboys game, it feels like a classic NFC championship game, right, with Aikman and Steve Young playing each other in like 1994 or something for the NFC title. So anyway, the NFC to me looks like a lot of fun. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I think we went into the season thinking, okay, Brady and the Bucks are gonna, march right on back in, and all the drama with Aaron Rodgers in the offseason with the Packers, and then here we are. The Packers have the number 1 seed. They got the bye all the way through. That means everybody's got to go to Lambeau in order to make the Super Bowl. You mentioned the 49ers who are hot right now. Your wife's a big Garoppolo fan for obvious reasons. And so the 49ers, I was actually going to say that exact same thing. I will watch that game probably just because I want to put on some old school 49ers gear from the 1990s and cheer against the Cowboys because everybody either loved them or you hated them and you still do. And that looks like a fun matchup. So I think, and then the Cardinals for a good part of the season, everybody thought might be the best team in football. And then some people thought it might be the Rams. So that could be a fun matchup as well. The AFC obviously still has a little bit to figure out. There is a game going on right now. The Raiders are up by 3 at halftime over the Chargers.
So, yeah.
So if the Chargers were to win, we'll just kind of do a scenario of, let's say the Chargers come back and win that game. If the Chargers win, we know the Titans have the bye in the AFC, which still shocks the heck out of me that the Titans have the best record in the AFC, just given what they've done over the past couple of years and the ups and downs and everything with them. The Steelers are at the Chiefs, the Chargers at the Bills, and the Patriots at the Bengals. So again, looking at the AFC, what are maybe some thoughts you have or anything that kind of stands out to you, just and maybe anticipating that those could be the matchups?
I'm really intrigued by that Bengals Patriots game. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm pulling for the Bengals with my Saints out. I got to pick a team, and why not the Bengals? Why not Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and that crew on that offense?
And you're going from who dat to who day.
Who dat to who day. That is absolutely right. So I'll pull for the Bengals as long as they're in it. Look, my mother-in-law is super stoked because she is a Titans fan. So the idea of everything having to come through Nashville makes her very happy. What I will say is Titans have had the 1 seed previously, and it hadn't gone well for them. So, for her sake, I'll pull for the Titans. I'll tell you, if the Titans make it to the Super Bowl, I will buy a Titans shirt, and I'll wear it on Super Bowl Sunday. I may even do that for the Bengals, too. Why not?
Oh, yeah.
I still think, though, the Chiefs are the team beating the AFC. They started slow, but they've ended well. And it's Patty Mahomes. And, Patrick Mahomes in the AFC and Tom Brady in the NFC. Those are two hard quarterbacks to pick against.
And who would have thought that the Steelers would have made the playoffs just a handful of weeks ago, just the way they're playing. And Big Ben kind of rallies them again and gets them in. I saw a stat a couple of days ago that Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season as a head coach. And I feel like he has been there forever. Yeah. And he's never had a losing season. I mean, they've had a lot of seasons where they were like, I guess maybe 8-8. But to never have a losing season over what's got to
Ben
be
Roethlisberger is 19 years in, and he's never had a losing season. I mean,
unbelievable.
And he was there with Cowher for a year or two before Cowher retired.
Yeah.
So he's a winner.
Yeah. Talking about a coach that doesn't get a whole as much recognition as he deserves.
And talk about a franchise that doesn't get the recognition they really deserve. When every other franchise is firing coaches 3-4 years at a time, they're sticking right there with, Bill Cowher was there for years. Mike Tomlin's going to be there for years. They know how to make the right hire. They make it, and then they stick with it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and look, Tomlin's won, one Super Bowl, I think, maybe 2. No, just one.
Just one
against the Cardinals, right?
Yep.
They've won 1 Super Bowl. But you sit there and you're in playoff contention till the very end of the season every single year. Come on. You can't get upset with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, and that organization's just run so well.
So the Steelers have had 2 coaches from 1992 until now. So over the course of 30 years, they've had 2 coaches. Cowher was 92 to 2006, and Tomlin's 2007 to now. And this is even more of a probably interesting. Since 1969, they've had 3 coaches.
Chuck Noll,
Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin.
Jeez. I was thinking there was somebody between Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher.
Who knew that this was going to turn into a Pittsburgh Steelers praise podcast? But I mean, really think about that.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, in the day and age where coaches get fired a year or 2 in, maybe 3 years if things aren't going well.
Yep.
And you look at 30 or 3 coaches since 1969. Now, their winning percentage has also been pretty good over that. I mean, yes. Chuck Noll won 66% of his games. Bill Cowher won 57% of his games, and Mike Tomlin's won 62% of his games. I mean, that's pretty good. So they haven't had to make coaching changes predominantly, but still, that is really, really impressive. Well, in looking at those 2 brackets, you mentioned Chiefs and Bucks. Is that your pick for the Super Bowl?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, who else is it going to be? Maybe Green Bay, right? Green Bay out of the NFC. You could see coming out of the NFC. The AFC, I just don't see anybody beating the Chiefs. I really don't.
It would be hard. I mean, I know the game would be in Nashville, but it would be hard for the Titans to beat the Chiefs twice. This year. So, I don't. And looking at those games and those matchups, I'm kind of with you. I would if it wasn't the Titans, I'd love to see the Bengals. But I do think it's probably the Chiefs. Just for the sake of being different, I'll say the Chiefs and the Packers. But I think between those 3 teams, it's really probably one of those 3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But again, it comes down to Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. And I can't pick against those 2. I was listening to somebody, I think ESPN Radio, talking about Bill Belichick and how he's hard to pick against, but he's got a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks don't get to the Super Bowl and they don't win the Super Bowl. So yeah, give me the Bucks and the Chiefs again, and maybe Brady wins him another one. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he does indeed, which would not be a surprise to really anyone, for sure.
No.
So, well, let's shift gears just briefly for a rare NBA topic on Dad's Watching Sports, and the reason is there is a return tonight. So again, we're recording this on the 9th of January. Klay Thompson back after almost 2 full seasons of after injury and another injury. Is back for Golden State. Just looking through his stats, and they're playing right now. He's got 13 minutes in. He's got 14 points. I mean, first game back, he's got 14 points. So Kyle, my question is, with ESPN having a pop up that is advertising Northwestern Mutual that you may have heard. My question for you is, I mean, the Golden State Warriors already with one of the best records in basketball. I mean, they're just a half game back of the best record in basketball, 29-9. They add what will be a Hall of Famer in Klay Thompson. And looking at the NBA season, and I know we're not even to the All-Star break yet, but if you had to take Golden State or the field for the NBA championship this year, who you got?
I'm going to take the field there. I really am. There's still some good basketball teams. I like the Suns. I like the Jazz. I like the Bulls and what they're doing this year. You know, they got the best record in the East.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the Nets do on the road with Kyrie coming back and playing just away games.
Mm-hmm.
I would take the field. I don't know that Golden State is just that much better. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't know that they're that much better yet.
Remember back in the day when it was like all the really good teams were out in the Western Conference, and it was like, man, it could be anybody from the East, and it doesn't matter because it's just going to be those teams out West that are battling. I feel like we're probably in that again this year, and I think, I mean, obviously Phoenix is a team that can challenge Utah. Show it to me in the playoffs before I really believe in them. I know the Lakers are just hovering over 500, but you've got to imagine that they're going to make a move soon. The Nuggets, I think, are still a team that can be reckoned with. So I think that the West is going to be kind of the proving ground. But I'm taking Golden State. I mean, again, I think Steph Curry's having an MVP type season. They've got some young guys that are really playing up to their potential. Wiggins is playing well as well, and you add Klay into that mix, and I think it could be. It won't be the team they had. Was it like 2016, 2017?
Yeah, I think
where they broke the Bulls record, but man, I think it's gonna they're gonna wipe the floor with a lot of the rest of the NBA the rest of the way. So, well, let's shift gears to the rest of the show to college football. I know that's something that we both love and enjoy and watch a lot of, anyways. Wanted to just kind of get your take on, you know, we've made it through the 195 bowl games, other than the national championship game, and we have seen all the sponsors of those bowl games, and I can't remember 2/3 of them, but any top moments from you in the college football bowl season thus far heading into tomorrow night's national championship game?
Yeah, it's definitely Wyoming up there in Boise doing what they did. No, it's not that.
I was like, man, you just threw me for a loop there. I was like, I was just going to agree with you and be like, yeah, man, I mean, Wyoming, that was a hell of a win. Did they win?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember that much. Yeah. No, to me, the big story coming out of the bowls is the Pac-12, right? Winless in bowl games.
Is that big of a surprise, though?
I mean, you would think they could have won one somewhere. Maybe not against another Power 5, but they had a game that wasn't against the Power 5 team and still lost that one. So, yeah, to me, the Pac-12 going winless just shows how bad the Pac-12 is. And when you pair that with Lincoln Riley going to USC, and the recruiting that he's going to start doing and bringing in the names that, quite frankly, should have been going to USC all along, I think it's going to be a quick turnaround for SC, because I just don't know that there's anybody else worth, getting behind. And it makes that Mario Cristobal hire in Miami a little bit questionable, because you go like, are they really that good, or were they just good for the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that for sure. I was looking at some of the scores to see where the Pac-12 lost, and there was not a whole lot of good effort coming out of that conference during bowl season. Some big takeaways for me, or some things that kind of stood out, or some questions that maybe paused up. I'm not gonna lie, it was enjoyable to see Michigan fall flat. I'm glad they finally beat Ohio State, but then everybody jumped on. I feel like everybody was on the Michigan bandwagon, and all we heard about is how great that defensive end is, or both defensive ends are. And all along, I'm thinking, man, my personal opinion was they're about to get thrashed, and they did. Georgia really flexed. Cincinnati, people are going to say, oh, they didn't belong. I don't know that I buy that. I think you put anybody outside of really maybe just Georgia in a playoff matchup, and that's probably going to be the same result that happens against Alabama. So I think you could have gone Notre Dame. I think you could have gone Ohio State. I think you could have gone really down the top 10. And Cincinnati probably played Bama about as good as anybody would have in that matchup. Yeah. So I don't know that I buy Cincinnati not belonging. You mentioned the Pac-12. Other than, obviously, the SEC has two teams in the national championship. Arkansas won, Kentucky won, but Missouri lost, Florida lost, Tennessee lost, Mississippi State lost, Ole Miss lost, Auburn lost, LSU lost. So the SEC took one on the chin, really. I know they're going to be able to say, oh, we're going to have the national champion, and it's an all SEC final, and that's great. But really, across the board, the SEC kind of took one on the chin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody looking at the SEC this year that knows football could tell it was a down year in the SEC.
Right.
We're very top heavy. To me, nationwide, it's Alabama, Georgia, and everybody else is below that level. And so, we had, I say we because I'm a Mississippi State fan. I follow in the SEC. We didn't look great.
I left out South Carolina.
As I say, you got South Carolina with a win, Bama with a win, Georgia with a win, Kentucky and Arkansas with a win.
Yep.
That's it. And then we're going to be at a win, at a loss after tomorrow night. Whoever that ends up being, I think we all know who that's going to be, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, it's still the SEC. I still think year in and year out, it's the toughest conference in college football, and will continue to be that going forward.
Well, if you just look at the recruiting rankings, I know recruiting for next year is not over yet, but the top three classes in the country right now are A&M, Bama, and Georgia, according to 24/7 Sports. Then you've also got Kentucky, Missouri, Auburn, Tennessee, all in the top 15. LSU's in the top 20. You would imagine they're going to move up at some point in time with Brian Kelly getting that hire. So the rich are only going to get richer. Speaking of Brian Kelly, so they made their hire. They hired their defense coordinator as their coach. He gets his first crack at a bowl game, first time as being the head coach of the Irish, and they fell at the Fiesta Bowl to Oklahoma State. You don't normally see a new coach having his debut in a bowl game, but what do you think about that hire, and how do you feel like Notre Dame's going to be able to either bounce back and continue on what they're doing, or are they going to take a step back?
I like the hire. For all intents and purposes, it sounds like he was a favorite among the players, a favorite among the staff. It keeps the staff together for the most part. It keeps what's his name there as the OC, and he can kind of run the defense. And so I think it's a smart hire. You got things going fairly well there in South Bend, and I'm going to ask you again. Are we still planning a South Bend trip next year?
I think we have to. Clemson goes to Notre Dame earlier on in the season. I think we need a dad's watching sports road trip to South Bend. I've never been there. I don't think you have either. I think it would be incredible.
I say let's make it happen.
Without a doubt. Let's see. Last couple things I want to talk about. All right. So one of the games that we mentioned from a SEC standpoint, Ole Miss losing in the Sugar Bowl, their star quarterback, Matt Corral, injured very early on in that game, and the Rebels couldn't really muster a lot of offense to knock off Baylor. But it definitely kind of reiterated and brought back up that conversation of, when you have somebody who's a surefire first round pick, should they play in a bowl game? Should they opt out? What's the deal with opting out? Kirk Herbstreit came under a lot of fire earlier I don't know if he was even that day or in that week. We're talking basically saying that kids don't love the game of football as much anymore because they're opting out. You played, you've coached. What's your whole take on that? Like, I'll be honest. Mine is, I feel like that your team is not going to feel like that you are probably opting out on them. Like, if you've got the opportunity to make that kind of money and you've got that guaranteed, like, I'm going to be a top 2 or 3 round pick and I'm going to be able to do this. This is going to be life changing. Like, I don't feel like you owe that to anyone to have to play. So that's just my take, but wanted to get your take on what your thought about this whole opting out situation is.
Well, you talk about me playing and coaching, but I'm also an econ teacher.
Right.
And so what I tell my econ students all the time is I begrudge nobody who's making their money. So go make your money, boo-boo. And that's kind of the way I feel about these kids opting out. If you, especially if you're a first round guy, and let's just be really honest. And I know Kirk Herbstreit would hate me for saying this, but does it really matter? Does the Sugar Bowl matter? Does the Fiesta Bowl matter? Does it matter if you are?
Well, I think it matters. Like, I think it does to those kids playing. Like, I think it matters. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember who won the 2022 Sugar Bowl. Nope. But I do think it matters to the kids on those teams. But I also think that my guess is, and this may not be the case 100% of the time, but 95% of the time, the respect among teammates is there enough to where if somebody is a high enough grade and there's a potential where they could cost themselves basically their financial future and potential kids and grandkids, like life-changing money, I have to think that everyone in that locker room is going to understand that and be like, hey, we get this, and you go get yours or you do yours. And there may be some kids that decide, you know what, I have that and I'm going to play anyways, like Corral did. Yeah. And it sounds like he's going to be fine. But I think it matters. I just don't think it matters in terms of maybe to the point that where people should feel like they have to play. But I think it still matters to the kids on the teams. You see that in the celebrations after the game.
Oh, I totally agree. It matters to those kids that play, and I'm not saying that. But in the grand scheme of things, if you're a first round pick in the NFL, does the Capital One Citrus Bowl matter? No, it really doesn't. Go be your first round pick. Go get ready to make millions of dollars. Don't put yourself in a situation where. Because here's the thing, like, is Matt Corral going to be okay? Sure. But what if it's a Willis McGahee type hit on his knee? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And granted, Willis McGahee, that dude was playing for a national title when it happened.
Right.
And I would be bothered if you're playing for a national title. But if you're playing in, I mean, you talked about 100, I forget the number you threw out, 145 bowl games, and you don't remember the majority of them.
Right.
Why play in meaningless games?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think ultimately my stance on all this is if a kid decides they want to do it, good for them. If they decide they want to play in the game and they happen to get hurt, you know what, that stinks. If they decide they don't want to, then also good for them. They don't owe that to anybody. And I think anybody that's not on that team that says they do needs to check themselves, because I don't think that's the right attitude to have.
Absolutely.
But you know, who are we to say? Oh, TJ says, hello, boys. Happy New Year. TJ, Happy New Year to you as well. TJ, we just got through talking about the recruiting rankings. Your Aggies, number one recruiting class heading into next year. It's going to be fun times down there in College Station. Well, Kyle, before we get out, there's just one last thing we got to do. You kind of hinted at this earlier when you said, I think we all know who's going to win. You got Bama, you got Georgia. I know this podcast for some people will come out after this, or they'll listen to it after the game's already been played. But we've got a rematch of the SEC championship game, Kirby versus Nick, Bama and Georgia, the Heisman winner, Bama going for 2 in a row. Who you
got? I said it when I was talking about the NFL. There are certain people I can't pick against. There's a certain guy in college football I can't pick against, and that's Nick Saban. So as much as it's probably going to upset people that Alabama wins another one, Alabama wins another one.
That's a good pick. And some really good points made for sure. I mean, it's incredibly hard to pick Saban. Most people don't because of the fact that it doesn't really work in your favor. But for some reason, I don't, and I could be completely off here, obviously, but I think Georgia gets it done. I think that they, as much as Nick Saban is kind of the mastermind, and he's playing them twice in a row, and he's going to use all the rat poison he can to get his team fired up. Yep. I thought Georgia was the best team for the first matchup. They just got outplayed, and I think now they'll take that with that chip on their shoulder, and it doesn't matter if they're favored or not. They know they lost that last game, and I think they're still the best team, and I think they find a way. So I'll take the Dogs 28-27 in Indy to knock off Saban in the Tide for the title.
Oh, you actually gave a score.
28-27.
No, 31-21 Bama.
There we go. There you go. Well, it's been a good one. Welcome back. New year, same dads. Good times.
Better beard.
Better beer. That's right. We will we'll talk to you all. I believe I'll have to go back and look. I think we do have a guest coming up next week. So we will see you next week on Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all take care. Thanks for downloading. Subscribe when you can. We'll talk to you soon. Y'all take care.